right, I'm going to invite people to get settled in, and we're going to go ahead and start.
Presentation there.
Not too settled in because we're going to be moving.
Yes, don't cement yourself into your place. But first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Pam Wheelock. I am the chair of the Destination Medical Center Corporate Board. And I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I really look forward to the joint meeting every year, and I'm thrilled to see such attendance here today. It's certainly one of the most valuable parts of our annual collaborative work plan, and this session is about creating time and space for us to step outside of our individual roles and think a little more collectively about Rochester and Rochester's future. So our purpose today is not to make any decisions or arrive at any conclusions. It's to build that shared understanding around a significant investment that's already underway, the Link Bus Rapid Transit System, and to think about the opportunities it creates beyond transportation itself. So the transportation infrastructure can be about moving people from one place to another, but it can also shape how communities grow. In fact, communities have always grown along key transportation lines throughout our history, where housing develops, where investment occurs, and where we create places where people can work and live. The question for us today is, how do we maximize the value of this public investment? So we're going to spend the first portion of our afternoon together on a bus tour, grounding ourselves in the physical spaces and the opportunities along the corridor. And then following the tour, we're going to hear from Catherine Malmberg of the EDA staff. And she's going to facilitate a conversation with Urban 3 and Smith Group, who will help us think about development patterns, fiscal impacts, and lessons learned from other communities. And then we'll spend time together discussing what resonates and where we see opportunities to move forward. So we hope that the discussion that occurs at the end of the afternoon after we tour the BRT line or corridor will help create shared understanding and spark ideas that can continue in our discussions in our own sphere of influence after today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, but I do want to say that we're going to board buses here, and Patrick's going to give us a lot of direction. But I'm just wondering, I would like us to at least go around the room and introduce ourselves, because for many of us, we might be new, and this might be the only time in the year that we all get together with this intentionality. And can we do this now, or do you want us to do that later?
Why don't we start with Randy and come around to me?
We're going to start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Randy Schubring, City Council President at Rochester. And just to you, Madam Chair, and to the DMC Board, this is an opportunity. As a City Council, we don't actually often meet with our county board as well. And so this is an opportunity for all of us to get together. So
Great.
thank you for doing that.
Great.
Allison Selms, Rochester City Administrator.
Kim Norton, Mayor, City of Rochester. Hi, I'm Dr. Katie Arndt. I am the President-elect of the DMC EDA Board of Directors, filling the very, very big shoes that Clark Otley is stepping out of.
Hi, I'm Kristen Beckman. I'm on the DMCC Board of Directors.
Good afternoon, Nick Miller, Rochester City Council, Second Ward.
Good afternoon, Dennis Dolan. I'm the DMC EDA Board, also Mayo Clinic's Chief Financial Officer. Sorry.
Norman Wall, Rochester City Council, Ward 3.
Greg Wright, Olmsted County.
Jocelyn Raymond of DMC EDA Board member.
Good afternoon. I'm Dan Doring. I represent Ward 6 on the Rochester City Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Jo Williamson. I'm on the DMC EDA Board and work as Vice Chair, supporting both Clark and Katie.
Mark Dyan, County Commissioner.
Sean Palmer, City Council, Ward 5.
Brian Mueller, Olmsted County Commissioner.
Tracy Downs, DMC EDA Board.
Michelle Rossman, Olmsted County Commissioner, District 5.
Good afternoon, Patrick Keene, Rochester City Council, the south side of Rochester, Ward 1.
Laurel Podolsky-Smith, Olmsted County Commissioner, serving District 1.
Andy Fredericks, City Council, Ward 4.
Bob Hopkins, Olmsted County Commissioner, District 6.
Paul Williams on the DMC Board.
Clark Otley, outgoing President of the DMC EDA Board.
Good afternoon, Travis Granzi, Olmsted County Administrator. And Dave Sundrum, an Olmsted County Administrator. No, not quite. Someday, maybe. Commissioner.
I am Patrick Sieb with Destination Medical Center at EDA.
Patrick, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. First of all, I want to acknowledge colleagues at the city and county in helping to think about and prepare for today's session. We have this annual joint session, each year, annual, and the first of which actually took place about 10 years ago today. And remarkably, that conversation 10 years ago today was, how do we think about transit and transportation in the DMC district? And at that time, it was a concept and a discussion and an imagination of what could happen. And today, we are 15 months away from an operating bus rapid transit system, the first in greater Minnesota. And it is being built before our eyes in the midst of a $5 billion project going alongside of it, and hundreds of millions of dollars of private investment taking place nearby. The idea behind today's session is not to judge the BRT. Decisions have already been made, so you don't get to make any adjustments to it. Stations have been set, so don't look at it from that lens. But look at it from the lens of, what does this infrastructure portend? What does this offer us? What does the future look like because of this infrastructure? And when you, if you were to walk through downtown today and compare it to just 10 years ago, you would find that there were 15 city blocks that were vacant, underutilized, surface parking lots often, that have been transformed into productive, economically productive parts of our community: housing, innovation buildings, hotels. As we traverse this corridor, I think we're going to see that much and more opportunity in front of us. And oftentimes we drive by these areas, we walk by these areas, and we take for granted what is. And today's opportunity is to think about what can be. And so that is what we want to do and want to accomplish collectively, is to think about what can be. As we know, 15 months we'll have this operating bus rapid transit system, that's economic generator that transit is and it becomes in our community and in many other communities. Want to think about, what do we do as leaders, what do you do as leaders in your domain to incentivize, to promote, to create policies, to accelerate the opportunity that is being generated here? And the tour guides, Brooke Carlson and Ryan Yetzer, Brooke Carlson from our team and Ryan Yetzer from the city and others, will give you a picture of what has happened already and what potentially can happen, and what the fiscal impact can be to our community, to the city tax base, to the county tax base, to the economic health and vitality, the aesthetic of our city. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish today. You have in front of you a tag that says bus 1 or bus 2. This is a trick. There's really only going to be one bus. So follow the person ahead of you and you'll get on the right bus, okay? Disregard bus 1 or bus 2. We're able to fit everybody on one bus, which was our preference to begin with. We're able to fit everybody on one bus.
And I think for the members of the public that might be here today, we're going to ask to let this group board first, so we're sure we have enough seats for the members that are our target market here today, and then to the extent that there's room, we'll fill in around that.
Absolutely. We welcome any members of the public to join, but if we could allow members to board first. Yep, board first. We'll reconvene, and we'll have some presentation and discussion that follows. So I think with that, if everybody's had a chance to finish up their lunches. Oh yeah, bring your binders. This has important information that will be used during the tour. And if you could bring your name tag as well and attach that so people know who you are. And we hope that there is conversation that takes place. Find a seatmate, somebody that you don't normally sit with, and get to know them on this excursion as
I'm going
well.
to sit with you because I saw that look on your face. Yeah.
My comfort level, I sit by him all the time.
May we
All
leave
right.
items here?
Yes, this will be secure. This room will be secure. I'm saying that. Yes. This room will be secure. So thank you. Thank you. So if everybody could, if you need to use a restroom on your way out, please do so. But we're boarding out to my left.
Under the walkway.
Third Avenue?
All right, I know that everybody is energized about everything they saw and the new friends that they made on the bus, but if we start a little ahead of schedule, maybe we can end a little ahead of schedule as well.
No promises about ending.
Yeah. We'll maybe potentially free up a little time on the back end for everybody. But why don't we jump in while everything is still fresh in our mind? And I just want to welcome everybody back. I think that it was really helpful to have us all in the same place at the same time and take the whole route and see the same thing and hear most of at least what Ryan and Brooke were saying to us on the bus. But the goal for the next hour isn't to lock and load on one particular kind of development or one site or one project, but let's just see if we can maybe make some progress in creating more of a shared understanding about the opportunities and what the nature and timing of some of these might look like, but what struck us and what do we want to learn more about and what do we think might be possible? And I'm going to turn it over to Catherine.
So thank you. So just to clarify, that wasn't the route of the BRT.
Right.
So we have a more straight alignment than that experience.
Thank you for making that perfectly clear.
Because I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that it's that's a route. But it was a really great effort by Ryan and Brooke and others to try to navigate an experience through all of the construction. But you did get to see a lot of the construction happening. So with that, I'd like to invite Catherine to lead this portion of the discussion. And the discussion will begin with a set of questions that Brooke was asking and that we'll start this out with, and then brief presentations by consultants that have been working with us over the past several months. So with that, Catherine Malmberg with Destination Medical Center. Catherine?
Great, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Is this on?
No.
Yes.
Is that good? There? No?
Use your outdoor voice.
I'll just use my voice. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So excited to be here with you all today and actually get out and get to see all of the exciting construction that's underway and really focus on what's next. What are the opportunities? There we go. What are the opportunities that this main spine of infrastructure can really unlock? And so I would like all of you to be thinking about a couple of the questions that we posed around those exciting opportunities and also potential barriers to realizing that sort of amazing vision of what the future of that corridor could become. And we're going to be doing, just to prepare you all, we're going to be doing some of our round robin, everyone give their brief answers to those questions before we get into the back and forth discussion. So just so you know, that's coming later in the meeting. But we'll be starting first by hearing a little bit from Urban 3, which is a team that both DMC and the City of Rochester have commissioned to do some really exciting evaluation of our community. And here's a little plug for the June 22nd City Council study session, where Heather will be back and going through some of what she's showing today, but in much greater detail. And so this is, you can see this today as a bit of a preview of that deeper dive into the fiscal impacts and their relationship to land use in Rochester more broadly. Today we'll be focused on the TOD corridor primarily. And then I'm also joined by Michael Johnson at Smith Group, who will hopefully look familiar to many of you. Smith Group was leading our second 5-year update to the DMC development plan, and he's going to talk about some of those urban design and other opportunities as well. So, but first, I'll hand it over to Heather.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon. I'm Heather Worthington, COO and Principal with Urban 3. We are a company located in Asheville, North Carolina, but my home office is in St. Paul. So I just drove down to be with you today, and we really appreciate this opportunity to show you some of the work that we've been doing for Rochester, for both the city and the DMC for the past several months. I want to just give a quick shout out to our analyst on this project, Rachel Fredrickson, who's sitting in the back here. All right, so we're going to start with a quick video. And the video really explains what Urban 3 does and should ground you in the analysis that we've completed thus far for the city and DMC.
Various kinds of housing affect a city's budget differently, but zoning policies often limit the range of housing options. Over time, this can lead to growth patterns that are more expensive for cities to maintain. At Urban 3, we analyze housing through the lens of economic productivity, based on how much value a property generates per acre of land it takes up. It's like how you measure the efficiency of a car. We don't measure it in miles per tank, because different cars have differently sized tanks. Instead, efficiency is measured in miles per gallon. We measure the economic efficiency of land in dollars per acre for the same reason. These two adjacent neighborhoods have different levels of economic productivity. Compared to the nearby lower density development, Trilith produces 4 times the value on a per acre basis, thanks to its higher density. Between 1940 and 2020, Springfield, Missouri's land area expanded through annexation much faster than its population grew, causing the length of road per resident to more than double. When growth requires extra infrastructure like longer roads, new utility lines, and sewer extensions, it can increase municipal costs compared to more compact development. This is a spectrum from undeveloped land to densely developed land, showing revenues and costs. The undeveloped parcels don't provide much revenue, but they also have low costs, providing a small surplus. Low-density residential areas are often challenging for cities to balance fiscally because their costs can outpace revenues. While densely urbanized places have high costs, they have even higher revenues, so they are net positive. We mapped Springfield's infrastructure costs and tax revenues. The net positive land is black and the net negative land is red. In places where residential development is net positive, it tends to have a higher density. Mixed-use buildings, townhomes, missing middle, and multifamily housing can be economically self-sustaining, which is why communities benefit from having the option to build them.
All right, so that's, I think, helpful just to ground us in what we're going to be reviewing this afternoon. This is a very small portion of the deck that we will present to the city in June, but we started with your total assessed value. So I want to ground us in the knowledge that this is Rochester and Olmsted County's data. Okay, this is data that you gave us to analyze and model using Esri GIS, okay? And so this is your total assessed value for Olmsted County. You can see Rochester is kind of this purple bit that's kind of popping off the map. If we look at it as an assessed value per acre, again, assigning the value of those properties spatially by parcel within the map, okay? And this gets us to the economic productivity of these areas. This is where you can see Rochester is incredibly productive in Olmsted County as a whole. Unfortunately, because of the size and shape of Rochester, we had to turn it on its side. So north is to the right, and we apologize for that. There's really no way to correct it. We wanted to fit it on one slide. I'm sorry, to the left, yes. So here we are. I'm looking at that screen. My apologies. It's to your left. It's to my right, yes. And so we also wanted to just show you today the comparison of average value per acre for all of these different property types across the city. And we use single family, both Olmsted and Rochester. And so the Olmsted is the darker brown bar, and Rochester is the kind of khaki colored bar. And then we wanted to show you Olmsted versus Rochester in terms of different uses. So these are non-residential uses. They're office, medical, and then what we call dense. And so these are just how the value per acre falls out in the model overall, okay? This is a quick roll-up slide that just shows you residential lower density, pulling about 1.6 million per acre versus your mixed-use higher density, which is pulling just over 20 million per acre. A lot of what you saw on the bus tour today will fall into that category of mixed-use or higher density residential. And this is how it stacks up in your model. So you can see that the investments that you are planning to make along the BRT line will be in those higher mixed-use type of projects that will be very productive in terms of the individual per acre value of those properties. This is a quick snapshot of some of your most productive buildings in Rochester. And again, this is the assessed value per acre. The Guggenheim is the most productive parcel in your model, pulling 167 million per acre. 2 Discovery Square pulls about 49 million. And then you've got a variety of these 2 different apartment projects at about 2.6 and 1.6, and then Apache Mall pulling about 900,000. I will say, just as a quick side note, we've worked in about 45 of the 50 states and 2 Canadian provinces. Apache is about average across the United States in terms of the value per acre that it pulls. The only model that I have seen that is much higher is Southdale and Edina, where they have developed their outlots and it pulls 3.1 million per acre. That is definitely an outlier in the United States, just as a touch point for you. Wanted to show you a couple of transit-oriented development models that we did. This is one we did in Indianapolis a couple of years ago. It is a BRT line. It is in the central part of the city. You can see the downtown popping off the map there. And we isolated the 2 lines. One is a city bus line and one is a BRT line. And what we wanted to show here was transit access in this model, and we wanted to show the building typology of the line itself. So these are parcels that have a building on them along the line. About 5% of the parcels are vacant. About 11% of them are land with a building on it. 1 story or civic is about 48%, and this is several years ago. This has changed now. And then about 35% are single story. So it was a very low density BRT line, and the city of Indianapolis really wanted to maximize the value of that property that's adjacent to both the BRT line itself and the station areas. And this was just a quick sample of sites that we did within Indianapolis. We looked at these station areas. And then we looked at what you could do in those station areas to really improve productivity. And what we showed was a movement from about 4 million to around 31 million per acre in that area, just in achieving higher density, more compact uses within this model. And these are the stations that we analyzed. And I'll just wait here for a second so you can kind of see what happened over time. And these are some projections we did showing that we would add development in these areas per their zoning code, okay? We estimated that 4 stops would create about 120 million in new market value and about 1.5 million in new taxes. And then I just wanted to show you Rochester very quickly. So this is your proposed BRT route and stations, 2nd Street corridor, the one that we were just driving down. There it is. And these are your stops. And we isolated that out. Right now, the current value per acre is about 4.1 million per acre along the BRT line. And we did some scenario planning for you, just showing various projections, but this is what we did for Robbinsdale. And so you'll see some of those projections in the larger show, but I wanted to show you what that might look like along a fixed rail investment. This is for the Bottineau corridor, which is the Blue Line extension in Minneapolis that goes into Robbinsdale, Brooklyn Park, et cetera. This is the current value per acre in that corridor. We estimated that they could get up to about right around 35.5 million in scenario 2. This is part of our Hennepin model. I also just wanted to show you something that we like to do. This is a cost and revenue comparison, and I'm going to let this slide roll in here. And different comparisons based on the amount of density you achieve with that area. And as you can see, your higher density has a higher projected revenue per acre, and of course your costs are a little higher, but your net return And again, we like to think of this in economic terms, in finance terms. Your net return is very positive with that higher density. If you're looking at low density, you do not have a positive net return.
Heather, can you just clarify what's included in cost?
For this corridor, oops, sorry, can I go back? There we go. In this area, we're primarily looking at all infrastructure. So it would be streets, pipes, storm sewer, wastewater.
So no police and fire and parks?
We don't consider public services other than infrastructure. We can do a level of service analysis, but we didn't for this one. And that's my last slide. So I'll hand this to Michael.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you so much, everyone. It's so great to be back with you again. I think I was here exactly a year ago, and I sat over here and didn't get to say anything. I got to listen, and so delighted to report that a lot of our work has been done, and thank you all for the support over the kind of last effort of the plan. And now really looking forward to talking more about the tactical elements of kind of advancing the BRT investment and the things adjacent to that. And so delighted also to be sitting next to Heather, and I really have admired their work from across the country. And it's really, you got the A-team on it, so it's very cool to see. I will just say and put these questions back up on the screen as I start, because Catherine was not joking. She is going to go around the room, so make sure you're making some notes about what some of your answers are going to be. I will be very brief in some of my comments, and then really want to hear inputs on both the kind of opportunities, the barriers, and then maybe we can get into a little bit of discussion about what we all heard and or saw today that maybe makes us think a little bit differently about what we were thinking coming into today. I just have to tell you all, I came in from Detroit this morning, and it's so good to be again amongst some familiar faces and some friends here, and I know you all are in the throes of a lot of very important work, and the construction is always challenging, but it is an amazing time to be in Rochester. In the last 45 days, I've been in Southern California because we're working on some high-speed rail adjacent work. I've been in Cleveland working on some stuff adjacent to Case Western and the BRT investment. I've been in Memphis working adjacent to St. Jude. And what you all are doing here pales in it does not even compare to what is going on in some of those other places, and you should be very proud of that. And the work that you all are doing together to pull multiple levers at the same time is impressive. So as you remember from our work with you over the last year, all of the stuff that shows up on the map in colors here are things that either have happened or are happening in the next 10 years in the DMC district, and it's amazing, and I know you feel it every single day. As a reminder, there's a very intentional focus on health innovation, design for well-being, and driving purposeful growth, and I think we'll talk about all of those things a little bit today, especially the purposeful growth pieces of it, because what you have in front of you over the next 10 years plus is just as impressive and just as daunting sometimes. So all of the items that you see on the map in green now are all those things that have happened or are happening, and the things in yellow and in red and in blue will be happening over the next 5 to 10 years and have potential to happen. The stuff in yellow is particularly where we stopped the bus over by the 6th Street Bridge extension that was pointed out by Ryan, right? So just a reminder of some of the potential that we still have in front of us. Specifically today, now we're just highlighting here in purple the BRT route and investments with those stops that Heather pointed out. This opportunity to focus on that land adjacent to the BRT investment, right? Because this is the opportunity where you don't have to increase a lot of your civic costs or other kind of costs in order to see some of the benefits that we see and that many cities across the country want to achieve that you all have done the hard work to lay the groundwork for already. And so that is very exciting. Heather touched on this a little bit. I think Indianapolis is a great example Cleveland's Healthline and BRT investment is a great example, although a little bit dated. A lot of other cities that you've probably been to that are investing in BRT and can learn from a little bit. Eugene has a 4-mile BRT. If anyone's been to Eugene lately, they're doing a really intentional job at doing some more innovative land use and urban design elements adjacent to those their investment, which I think is a good benchmark. Richmond, Virginia, Kansas City as well. And I think some of the success metrics, and this came up in Ryan's speaking points today, and Brooks as well, but that zoning certainty that we're seeing in other cities is really sending a message. The investment in quality design and the willingness to kind of pull levers on some catalytic projects that you have to get right, I think are some of the takeaways that we're seeing in some other cities. I also want to, again, reinforce in a time when it feels like there are a lot of headwinds against us, this is a moment in urban design and in urban environments that you have a little bit of help towards some of these kinds of investments. Population growth in urban places are outpacing those in suburban areas, right? Almost a third of urban households are headed by millennials and the next generation, and they're anticipating different kinds of things maybe that many of us anticipated. Denser locations are growing faster than those that are less dense. There's a mobility shift that is happening and an affordability shift that is happening, and so those are things behind us that I think reinforce the investment that you all are making. I think there's an interesting point, right? And I've just really enjoyed spending time in Rochester over the last year plus. You have an amazing anchor institution that is providing some stability, and the investments that are happening adjacent to that are allowing us to have a deeper conversation, I think, and delighted that you all are joining in that conversation. There is a real opportunity to focus here on housing and affordability as well. Focus on those workforce opportunities. So not just the things that we need to pull levers to increase density, but also considerations we need to make around equity and anti-displacement and those kind of things, I think are a very important conversation that need to happen. And then, I'm preaching to the choir here, of course, but the coordination that you all have across agencies and the ability for this group and groups like this to get together to make shared decisions and to have some debate about what is the right thing to do is very important, and it is going to help you leapfrog, I think, because of that. So just a couple of quick considerations from a pure kind of urban design consideration. And I think hopefully this helps you as you all are thinking about some of your comments moving forward. But as we kind of look and zoom out at the opportunity here, making sure that we get the areas around the stations right, I think will be a very important and maybe obvious thing to do. That happens in the public realm as some of these bullet points are considering. But also not forget about the ability to integrate transit with housing and those essential services very close to that transit line. So we talked a little bit about the quarter-mile walk and how far people might be willing to walk. What happens then in the half-a-mile walk right beyond that? But the investment and the kind of pulling multiple levers within that quarter mile, I think, are a very important consideration. The ability then to leverage that public realm investment that you've already made and the decisions that coordinate across the things that you have to still make to de-risk private development is a real benefit. And so sending not only a clear message from a zoning perspective across the whole corridor, but also, and Ryan talked about this, from a certainty of approvals process and those kind of things as well. And so I think the kind of targeted investments that could accelerate some of those development timelines, reduce some of those risks, allow us then to have deeper conversations on what's the right mix and what's the right displacement strategy or affordability strategy, et cetera. I think then the ability then to talk about where you might want to pull some more of those levers to help close gaps for some early catalytic projects, right? I think the things that are already coming out of the ground are already proof of concept. The things that come out of the ground immediately after the line starts to open, it will continue to reinforce that. And so again, you're doing a lot of these things, right? The parking reductions that Ryan talked about, the ability to have some of these strategic incentives for development. The image that shows up in the behind the words here is actually a project in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's a 22-story all affordable tower on top of the transit center in downtown, and it just got a $30 million state brownfield incentive in order to close the gap on making sure that it didn't just have 80 and 100% AMI units, but also had some 60 and 30% AMI units, right? Those are the kinds of conversations I think that will be important to have as you all move forward. And so before we give the mic over to you all, I think it's really important that we think about, from a near-term standpoint, making sure that you have all of those gaps closed from a corridor-wide perspective on the zoning and the parking minimums and some of those more detailed areas around the stations and those transit village components. I think then thinking about those catalytic projects in the near term, and then the ongoing coordination and governance that may need to be considered to make sure that this strategic vision and investment unlocks that opportunity adjacent to the parcels throughout the corridor. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today, and looking forward to jumping right into the discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. So I will note there's some added note paper in the back of your packets if you want to take a second to jot down your thoughts. Again, I think we'll go sort of round robin style to kick it off. I'll be starting to my left here, so just a warning, Commissioner. Yeah, first kind of maybe if everyone could share briefly what they're most excited about, and then we'll do another round, what you're most concerned about maybe, or what barrier jumped out at you or you're thinking about the most, and then we'll kind of open it up a little bit more with that third question conversation, and kind of get a little more fluid with it after we do those quicker round robin style responses, so we can just kind of get out on the table what people are thinking about. So with that, I will turn it over. Something that you think is most exciting.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of changes on 2nd Street west of 52. That's probably your biggest opportunity, because you're already dense or have institutions along 52 on the east side, or along 2nd Street on the east side of 52 that will be hard to displace. You're not moving out St. Mary's. You're not moving out the Ronald McDonald House, but west of 52, there's a lot of opportunities.
Excellent.
Well, I'd just say globally, it's hard not to be most excited about the housing opportunities, both that have been put in place and are coming.
I would agree with that, and I'm also excited about the strategic investments in the public sphere, so public community spaces.
Maybe bring the mic closer for people.
Public community spaces.
I don't think I'm on. Well, first, I am really impressed in terms of what Heather Worthington had presented to us. And I look at it more on the numbers, like a lot of you guys do. And what excites me the most is really trying to get my head around in terms of the revenue per acre that the BRT line will be able to deliver in our community, and how do we get there. So excited for that opportunity, and excited for the challenge in terms of how our community can actually overperform.
Mm-hmm. And the mics are on, but you got to get pretty close to them.
I think sure, thanks. I always appreciate the helpfulness, Jocelyn. I think the West Village way out on the west side is very impressive. It was basically land that wasn't used for much else. It's going to bring in more for the city. It's going to allow people to transit without car traffic. And it's going to spur more development in that same area. So I think that's very impressive.
I agree with the housing parts, but also I'm excited about claiming a part of the river again for the public realm and for enjoying a natural part of our city, as well as adding to the surplus of revenue that can come to the city with the higher density.
Yeah, I would triple down on the housing because we strong workforce needs in a growing community like Rochester. But I'm also more excited even about the second order effects of that what high density housing can bring in terms of amenities, dining, entertainment, services, more equivalent to an urban setting, and maybe even tourism or things, new lodging opportunities. And so that's what excites me.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Councilmember Walls said, my colleague, is that I often hear from residents that they want more city services and they want to pay less in property tax, or they want to see their property tax increase more slowly. And I think that this offers us an exciting vision of how we can align our policies, procedures, and incentives to provide a better quality of life without burdening taxpayers with more and more of that cost, to create more surplus. And then the question becomes, what do we do with that? How do we invest it?
What Nick said.
I got the opportunity to look at all of this route in whole new eyes today, and I just want to commend the work of this entire group, because as I looked at it and I thought about where Rochester was just 10 years ago, especially regarding housing, but also regarding development, Discovery Square, so on, it's incredibly impressive. So I'm excited to join you all on this journey. Thank you.
So on the west side, I would say I'm most excited about the Aon development as a start, as well as the idea of putting childcare right there in the structure. I think that's super exciting. On the east side, I think the Ampey development and the 6th Street Bridge, I'm very, very excited about those next, moving a little faster, a little quicker to get those in. And I would say both of those are taking up flat parking, right? And so getting rid of all the flat parking lots that we've had and creating really exciting economic development is awesome. And the other piece that I'm excited about, or I guess is a challenge, is how do we incorporate appropriate urban development to keep these plans exciting as we move ahead? And I don't want to go on too much, but I would say we used to have an urban development committee. It was removed because it wasn't very functional, but I'm wondering if there could be some discussion moving ahead about adding some component back of that's been missing. So just, I'm kind of spinning on that.
Maybe I'll spin with you. I do think that there's a lot of opportunity. I think the opportunity is in the BRT being in service. And any private development or people thinking about living, working, investing along that route, thinking about how they do that in a Rochester scale urban environment, that when they're actually utilizing that or seeing the BRT in action, that they will have different ideas about how they develop and invest in that space. So you may have a little corner market. You don't have to leave there in order to be able to live your life. I think it will really change the way that individual people think about how future development happens, how they could live there, how they could work along there, and what they might bring to the table to be able to have smaller scale things in our scale of urban environment that would really be supportive of that next level urban development that might not have to come from the public sector, but is inspired by what people see using the public investment for what they might be able to do with their private investment.
I'm going to echo what I've heard so far as housing, in particular affordable housing, the Aon project, but I'm going to kind of either break the rules or jump the gun. I think a lot of times around this table, and I'm thinking more from a DMC standpoint, that we are setting optimistic goals, and I really am a little concerned about the expectations. I've watched the Hiawatha Line and how many decades it took to see development there, the Green Line in St. Paul, and so I'm really anxious to hear, what are those barriers? Do you folks, the experts, say are those barriers? We just heard about the small area plan at the AMPI site. I served on that small area plan. That was 6 years ago. We haven't seen anything there from a private sector development there. So I'm worried about setting expectations for our community that there's going to be a lot of change and it's going to be longer than we think.
I would say I'm most excited about the private investment that will naturally occur along the BRT line, and that when you have as many potential people getting on and off at these 7 stops on this line, how that's going to change market demand or opportunity, and the ability to have a more integrated backbone from the west end to the 6th Street in a way that feels more seamless and connected, and that you can walk between those stops, and that there'll be ideally things of interest or things to do along those that make that a pleasurable and choice among passengers. I think that the change in that environment over time will be pretty powerful for this community. And I think maybe to Randy's point, I don't know if we're supposed to both do 1 and 2, but I'm going to jump to 2, is almost without exception, these parcels of land on or in proximity to the line are owned by somebody right now. And so how do you think about the turnover of that and the intensification of use to some other use, or a collection of multiple properties from multiple owners to do something bigger scale? It does take time. It does take time and money to accomplish that. So really being targeted about where the high payoff opportunities are, if there's going to be any public support or financing, I think is going to be a challenge and an opportunity both.
Thank you. Some of you heard me use the term de-risk as part of our business earlier today, and you saw on Michael's slide the term de-risk. And one of the things he talked about and was pretty subtle about is the political alignment that is so critical, and and he didn't say this, but he's talked to me on other occasions about how rare that is to find in other communities, and we take it for granted here. We're all sitting around the room, leadership from all of the public bodies and Mayo Clinic, and that political alignment and the de-risking strategies it makes me very optimistic.
I go to St. Paul, and the question invariably, as I did last Monday, was, how's everything in Rochester? And you have to be honest and just say we are the luckiest people probably in the upper Midwest as far as the kind of community we have and its potential. It is amazing what this community is, and it's amazing what this community is going to be. As I think about the BRT, obviously that's going to be a high-value property, a route, if you will, and it will develop, and as it develops, it will depend a lot on whether or not properties can cash flow from the standpoint of just existing, and not probably all ideas will work, but some will, and they will just evolve through time. I'll do this in 30 seconds. We got to think about what made this community great, and it's great people. And it's not robots. It's great people going to work at this fabulous medical institution we have, and being the best, if you will, support structure for the medical community that exists in the world. And these are people that I think probably, generally speaking, need a fuller life than just going to the hallowed halls of Mayo every day and then going to their little box 2 blocks down the street. So I think as all this evolves, we have to continue to think about people wanting to live and needing to frankly live, if they're going to live the kind of life a lot of people like to live, that have backyards, that mow their lawn at night, that play with their kids in the backyard, that have a dog and those kind of things. They're the kind of people that are going to go to Mayo every day and embellish their patients and make their patients want to come back to this great institution. So yeah, do the housing, but let's not forget what the other part of our society also wants, and that's a backyard and everything that goes with it.
Well, I'll say that, one of the most exciting things is the housing, and housing for all at all income levels. I'll also say, though, that, for as much excitement as there is about everything that's on Second Street, and there is a lot there that's exciting, but I'll kind of follow on to what the mayor said. I just think even though it's a much shorter segment on Third Avenue, there's certainly an opportunity for a lot of things to happen in that short stretch and around the east ramp as well. And I just think that for me, that part is as exciting as all the development occurring along Second Street. So thank you.
I'll just do a lot of seconding. Pam, the method, the proactive nature, that's what we have here, an opportunity to do what we've done all along, like think bigger than individual lot owners. Second, the data. I sat next to Allison during the tour, and there's data here. There's proof points about how it actually works. We need to communicate that in a really clear way, that this is not subsidies for, developers. This actually benefits the community if you do it right. And then third, I'll second Dave and Patrick to say it's the people. And can you imagine another community where everybody's so civil and smart and collaborative? I don't think it's happened in the past year anywhere in the United States. So we've got a huge advantage.
I would second a good bit of that, and Randy, to your questions, and as a citizen of my beloved St. Paul, I have to say the Green Line, which when I was deputy mayor in St. Paul, we constructed. Kristen Beckman got to cut the ribbon, actually. But despite the Green Line, the light rail line that runs through St. Paul, suffered, we have to be honest, and Heather, you probably could know an awful lot about this as well, but suffered from a pandemic, George Floyd riots, the surge in this last year, and incredible demographic shifts within an older urban area. Every city is different, and Rochester truly is unique, Dave, to your point. The strength of this anchor, I think, is unique in Mayo. And I just see wonderful opportunity there. Business is drawn to density, and density is drawn to business. And that's one of the hard lessons that we actually limited density in St. Paul along that light rail line, a mistake in the toughest portion of that. We should have increased density at that time, because density brings more people to that transit corridor, which is part of what strengthens other businesses. And so it is about housing, but it's also housing draws, those unique restaurants, draws those unique opportunities. And so I think there's a lot to be learned. I think this is a unique community, though, in the strength of that anchor and kind of in the opportunity for business and housing to interact. So I'm really optimistic.
So that little tour was, in many respects, a tour around my district. And I'm very excited to see that all the work that's been going on will improve the amenities for those residents, particularly those south of Second, and afford them essentially walkability to those many amenities. And I also want to point out what Nick had discussed, and that was, the effect of this on the tax base. I think it's very thoughtful and intentional to alleviate the effect of taxes on our residents by improving density. And I think that's hopefully will be a huge benefit to those folks in our city.
So far, the biggest advantage of BRT was riding around with Pamela today and learning from her. What a great lady. But I've been coming to Rochester for 45 years, and I've witnessed firsthand us trying to ignite our core of our city. And I see this as an opportunity to create vibrancy in our core and to help some of these businesses that have struggled in our downtown become sustainable and add the new businesses that we sorely need from small operators that bring that creativity and the excitement versus just always a big box, this or that. The small businesses create the vibrancy in a downtown community. And we need the high density housing. One thing Nick and I have aligned on since we both ran, we need the high density housing downtown so the businesses can operate and sustain. And this is just a great option for them to get around. The challenge for that 50 plus category, not to throw an age out there, but I'm gonna, just to change that habit. You know, a lot of our people traveling to Mayo are later in their years. And I think of my folks. They've come here for the last 45 years. Certainly, they both started coming down here when I was 5 years old. And to see my folks get out of their car and get on a bus, I don't think they've ever done it in their life. So I just really want to figure out a way to get them, because if we can get them comfortable with it, we can get anybody comfortable with it. So I just want to be able to figure out a way to navigate that and help that happen. So that would be what I would say is our biggest barrier. That's what I got.
There are so many things to be excited about, and so much has been mentioned already. And so what comes to my mind is a walk audit that I participated in last month. It was my third walk audit, and this was a walk audit that focused specifically on the bus rapid transit stops and the terminus of both of the terminus points of the route, where a group of us, including Councilmember Miller and Doring, probably 50 of us, broke up into smaller groups, and we physically walked around the areas around the transit stops. And there was a lot of room for improvement. So if a priority is creating transit villages for vibrant neighborhoods, that would include the walk shed around all the stops. Some of the neighborhoods around the stops are lacking sidewalks, and certainly wouldn't qualify as walkable, accessible, safe, or particularly livable. So I think an investment in the livability infrastructure of the neighborhoods around the transit stops is an especially exciting opportunity for me, as nearly the entire tour today took place in District 1 in my district. And I walk through my district every day. I walked my entire district at one point. And as many of you were saying, the quality of life can be found in the simple things, just like what you were saying, Dave, that safe streets and safe walkways can really boost the overall experience of sense of well-being and quality of life.
Thanks. The question is sort of organized towards adjacent, but I don't want to look past BRT as transit and talk about that for a second. That the thing that I talk about partnerships that I've been most excited is this idea that DMC finances come together with federal funds, and we end up creating this this route that really benefits Mayo, but it also opens up to the city now that there's free on and off. And I think it is one of the big opportunities from my perspective is public transportation truly working in a city of under 150,000 people. And it's not just the idea like, oh, they're just gonna go through here and there. They're gonna be able to experiment for this for nothing. So I don't want to look past this. I do watch the other kind of cities and say, I've been to Minneapolis and trying to ride their thing, and then the problems that come up. And I think there is a tendency at this point of anything to be looking at all the good things that can come. But there's things that can go wrong with this, and I think we've got the right teams in place to watch that. I'll cheat ahead and go to barriers too. And one thing that, again, I really appreciate the people talking about both amenities, but also the housing, and that really is a lot of stuff. But it's one of the problems I have in being a government representative. Our language acts like we do this stuff, and we don't. The private sector does. And this idea that what I've seen sometimes is we develop the TOD and say, we sit back and look at a map and say that's where the housing would be. But the private sector comes in and says, but the land is cheaper over here, and we want to do it over here. And many times we kind of give into that, and then we don't have what we originally set out to get. I just think that's a barrier that I've watched happen. And but again, I want to really stress the idea. I really appreciate the housing, that idea of you have to have something for people to want to go to. These are important points. But this idea of making public transit truly work, I still think it's an experiment. I know we can do it for Mayo employees, but I want it to be not just for Mayo.
Very much appreciated the tour today and being able to really place some of these new builds that we read about all the time. So thank you very much for that. I would say the thing I'm very excited about is the housing, but I would build on a few other previous comments regarding, when we're thinking about individuals who are 40, 60, 100% AMI, and then we saw the land values around this whole area. How will we put in place grocery stores that they can afford and all the amenities that really fit truly, the disposable income that they have and make their life very rich, as Dave spoke to. I worry about that a little bit. And then building off Councilman Frederick's comments regarding mobility and visitors versus local, I just see such a different mindset between how locals will use BRT and how we're thinking about visitors using it, and how we convince locals that this is a really good thing and that they should be parking out on the West Village and driving and coming in, and what that looks like. And I just think we have a lot of education and engagement to make this successful between those two different, very disparate groups of users.
I also echo the tour today was really helpful, and the fact that 11,000 people are expected on day one for the transit opening blew my mind, because I think when we think of BRT, we often don't think about who's going to ride it, but right now there's actually going to be a lot of people riding it from the beginning, and I think that was something that I learned that was very exciting. And the West Transit Village in general, taking and having not just Mayo employees that are starting there, but also the apartments and the senior living and all of those things, I think also adds a lot to people who have a really strong need right off the bat. And then as we increase the opportunities and helping to build and having private investment into the places during the transit stops, I think there comes an organic incentive for people to be going the other way, to coming from downtown, to be coming, to the different stops and to getting off and on. So I think there's just, those are the things that really excite me.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for the tour. My district, of course, I have very little of the city of Rochester. The volume potential from the bus rapid transit coming down 2nd Street should be able to help storefronts, which it does need to expand, because small businesses are so important to the area. It's definitely looking positive. The one issue I do have is when I heard that bypassing zoning public hearings because it's quicker, that kind of seems to shade transparency for me. So I'll just stop at that.
Well, I want to thank everybody for their contribution in this first round, and I think, Catherine, we covered maybe some version of at least 2 questions, maybe even some of us touched on 3, and in the interest of time, I don't think we're going to have time to go around again and kind of stay with our hour. But maybe we could put you on the spot and ask you to do just a couple of minutes of what did you hear? What are your takeaways that you think you want to share with us, and maybe some thoughts to leave us with, and then I'll wrap up.
Sure. And maybe I will start. I know Heather has had a lot of experience up in the Twin Cities as well and heard a few things that I think she might have some other data points that she could talk about in terms of some of their transit investments and what they saw as opportunities and barriers in that. Start with that maybe.
Sure, and I thank you, Paul, for what you said, because you took the words out of my mouth. I think the opportunity on the Green Line, I'm 4 blocks from the Green Line where I live, that opportunity was really lost when the city missed the mark in terms of how they regulated land along the corridor. And they regulated it in a fashion that really restricted development to stick-built, which means that you're never going to attract more concrete and steel development, nothing denser, taller. It's a real missed opportunity on the Green Line. That is a multi-hundred million investment, close to, with the extension now, a couple billion. So it's a major miss. But what I see you doing here in Rochester is that with your Unified Development Code, your parking minimum discussion that Ryan touched on today, you've already extinguished a lot of those issues. And I think one of the challenges that you have ahead of you is really keeping the gravity in this conversation around what I'm going to call development by right. You're going to do a lot of work up front to establish the right land use regulations in these areas. And if you have a very long entitlement entitlement process for developers, you will lose good development. So I think finding that balance for you between having the right land regulation in place and then allowing enough administrative review and approval to keep things moving so that you can weather multiple market shifts, right? Because we're in the midst of a shift right now. We will be in another one in a couple of years. And I think that's the real challenge for a city that wants to really build on the momentum that you see happening in these areas. So that's just a general comment. That's where St. Paul got it wrong. It's where I hope other cities in the metro, as the Blue Line extension and Green Line extensions happen, I hope they get it right. And if you look at your economic model, it will guide you to the right decision making.
Thank you. Michael, any thoughts that have come to your front of mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really appreciated the conversation that filtered through many of your comments around the people side of this and the kind of working together side of this. And so the example that I'd like to share it reinforces that, yes, this is hard work to get the right kind of development that you want adjacent to it. It's not going to happen magically. So you have to be intentional, but so we've done some work in the city of Ann Arbor recently over the last decade. I think there's a lot of similarities from a scale of community and an institutional anchor community. The city of Ann Arbor is 120,000 people. 70,000 people commute in and out of Ann Arbor every single day. And so the biggest concern for that city over the last decade is that they've rewritten the zoning plan is affordable housing and workforce housing. And one thing that the city did was it had 8 publicly owned surface parking lots in downtown. And they signaled to the development community that we're going to make it easier to develop those lots, because it's very hard to develop in Ann Arbor, if you are willing to develop affordable housing. And what it did was it set a very clear message, and it led for accelerated approvals. And it also, there was community support around it, with a community that had actually gotten very anti-density, but the community supported as long as it was going to be affordable. And it started to attract developers from Chicago and from Toronto. And I think that's the kinds of signals that with focus, that you may be able to send. So the project that I showed on the screen, it was a related Midwest project. They do a lot of great affordable housing in Chicago, and I think the ability to then translate, not just attracting developers from Minneapolis and St. Paul, but from some of these other cities. I think you already are starting to do that, but to keep that focus then on the outcomes that you want to achieve. Again, will be hard work, but with the folks around this table, I think you can achieve that. So.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I'll make just a few kind of closing summary remarks, and certainly for those that did not also get to express their barriers, I am excited to hear them. So please find me. I want to hear everyone's reflections. So I was hearing a lot of really great support and interest for these kind of secondary effects of what could be catalyzed when we make such a large, important sort of spine of mobility that goes right through the heart of the community in the downtown, and that we have to be very mindful of what those secondary effects are and think proactively about how we might want to shape that to ensure that we have access to that we don't let land values spiral so out of control that we don't have economic diversity that we need, that we are making sure that those small businesses are at the core of that vital feeling that I think everybody around the table wants to see happen in our downtown. And how do we ensure that diverse participation in that economic growth is a huge part of the thriving, successful secondary set of effects. If the transit station is there, but you can't get there from 3 blocks away, it's not really going to change your experience of the city. So accessibility really being a core part of this. So we took extensive notes, and like I said, Heather will be back in less than a month to dive even deeper into some of these dynamics. And Michael and his team have produced a lot of great work for us, and really just happy we got to have this conversation today. I'll hand it back to you, Pam.
Well, thank you. Particularly, let's give a round of applause to I think helping us to think broadly and differently and collaboratively about this issue is a real gift to us. We don't often get together like this. We have one meeting a year. Some of you see each other more frequently than others of us, but this work is done together, arm in arm, and when you have kind of a shared view of what's important and what the future can bring, it makes everything a lot easier. So thank you for the staff in putting this together. Thank you for your openness about the journey here today, both on the bus and in this conversation. And I think we all have now a little to take home with us and to think through and maybe give some additional feedback in whatever areas of opportunity we can. But this is great work and very exciting. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Pam.